1, 2, 3, go on our GarageBand accounts.
We are live. Awesome. We got to count in. We've had a heck of a time trying to get this all working. We couldn't hear each other, and we switched accounts, both of us, and we're back again. So we'll do the count in, and then we'll start this episode.
All right, let me hit my local record.
Okay.
All right, I am recording locally.
Well, we're going to count in for the local one.
Okay.
So on the count of 3, we'll go 1, 2, 3, go.
Got it.
Right. 1, 2, 3, go.
Go.
Hello, welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia, episode 122. I'm your host, Jacob Rush, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Black, and we are back, and we are playing with Power. We are, like 52 minutes late to getting started. Technical problems, and we really don't know why or how we even solved them, which is probably the bigger issue here. Is we've been using this stupid thing for over 2 years now, it seems, and we haven't had these kind of issues, and all of a sudden it wants to have fits with us. So we're finally up and running. We are so sorry. We wanted to be live right at 9 o'clock, and it didn't happen. So, but we're not alone here today, Ryan. We are welcoming to the first time to Nintendo Nostalgia, Mr. Jeff from Nindy Nation, one of our neighbors from Nintendo Village. How you doing, buddy?
Yoshi. Hey guys. Thanks for having me on today. Looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, we're so glad you could be here. A few weeks ago, I was on Jeff's show. If you guys, we've had his co-host Josh Brandt on the show, who used to be part of Life of Gaming podcast, which they show up here and there, and then they go away, and so they're kind of hit or miss on their stuff. But we're all friends there, and yeah, Josh has been on the show. It's been a long time. He came on like two years ago, and we talked GoldenEye 007 and on his episode when he was on. So that was back in 2 Novembers ago. So, no, we know both you guys, and we're really excited to have Jeff here today. And yeah, Jeff, we're really glad you could be with us. So Ryan, I am excited because I know we've been doing our in-depth episodes of Ocarina of Time playthrough, and although they're fun, we did, they're long, and it's a different format, and it's not my favorite format. I enjoy it, but I feel like it doesn't allow us to just be real and talk like this for a little while, because I don't know about you, but I have been itching to just like Radical Rex, because we haven't Radical Rex about anything the past 3 to 4 weeks, so I'm excited about that. Jeff, I don't know how much you've listened to our show, but we do always have our Radical Rexing segment, and that's just where we are excited, we are pumped to talk about something that has us excited, and it doesn't necessarily have to be gaming. It can be a new CD you bought, or a movie you just saw, or something about life in general. But most of the time, it is gaming. So I don't know about you guys, but let's get into it. So this is what we have been Radical Rexing about. Jeff, since you're our guest, why don't you go first, man? What is something that has just got you stoked and excited as of late?
Tell you what, I am jazzed about the fact that I bought a brand new computer today. And
nice.
I have been a Mac user since 2002. Exclusively. The last computer that I built was a Pentium 4 2 gigahertz, and I used to do this for a living, building computers and doing IT work and stuff. And I got a new computer for work that had Windows 10. I really liked it. And the main thing that drove me to buy my first PC in over 16 years today is that I am going to use it primarily for emulation of old GameCube and Wii games. And I booted up a couple just to test it out with the new build settings today. And I was able to run Mario Kart Double Dash at 60 frames a second, 1080p with all kinds of like per pixel shaders. And it just looks gorgeous. And so I do that, and I hook up my Mayflash Wii U GameCube controller adapter into the USB port and play it with the GameCube controller. So I am super jazzed to dig back into like that whole generation of gaming which has been kind of stuck. You know, you can't play those games in HD. So that's what I'm jazzed about right now.
Very neat. Wow. That is really cool. I did see something like just the other day about it was just yesterday. It was like an HDMI that you can actually attach into your original Nintendo 64, which would then upscale your N64 games to be able to be played on like a flat screen TV and everything. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, they are
super cool. So I'm like thinking like, you know, there's not really a good way to stream those games very often. I'm thinking like, man, you know, this might be a good way to do that, you know?
For sure.
That just kind of reminded me of it. Ryan, what about you, buddy?
Me? I'm pretty good. I downloaded Final Fantasy VII. I was streaming that for a little bit. I ran into some technical difficulties with my computer and my mic. I sent my mic off to get it fixed. I'm like, oh, well, I still have my computer. I can still do stuff with that. And then the computer got dropped on the power cord, and the power cord split. So I have to order another power cord. So I couldn't stream Final Fantasy VII anymore. So that was a minor setback. And so I'm recording on my Fossil Mac with my headphones in because I don't have my mic even. So I'm a bit back in the old days, you know, when we started recording first.
Yeah. Wow. Anything else besides Final Fantasy?
Oh, man. I don't know. I've got a dog. I've got health. I just got over sickness, so I'm good with that. DLC's coming for Smash. It's a new month. We gotta avoid all the April Fool's stuff tomorrow. But I'm already seeing some today from Australia that caught me.
Any news that drops tomorrow, you just gotta know it's going to be fake.
Except for that Sony one where they're pulling all their download codes from GameStop, the retailers everywhere.
Womp womp.
Leave that one.
Okay, well, for myself, what have I been radical correcting about? Well, in life has just been really busy. It's been more of a grinding season for just really focused on work and life as of late. And I've been a lot of times lately, I'm not gaming very much right now. So like I'm really trying to be focused at the gym and at work and taking care of my family. The first part of the week, I'm really trying to just really be, you know, laser focused on stuff that's not gaming, which is hard for me to do because I love gaming. And I've had seasons where I'm just like every day of my life is consumed by gaming, you know, and my thoughts. But I've been really focused in on that. So, but what I've been excited about is that when I do get to the weekends, I feel like I kind of have, and I think it's working with my wife because she's let me the past 2 weekends. I feel like I've kind of earned my like gaming time for the weekend. Not like I just can't do anything but game, but she lets me game, you know, I get away a little bit. And the past 2 weekends I've been able to do that. And I finally have been diving into Starlink, aka Star Fox. And I can tell you, I got it back for my birthday back in October from Traven. He got it for my birthday, October 22nd. And I played a little bit of it and I just didn't, you know, I got all these games and life happened and it just fell in the backlog. Never really got to play much of it, which I was sad because I really looked forward to playing it. So I finally booted it up and I actually started it over because I had played like maybe like 5 hours worth the original time. And at this point I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's so far off, you know? And then within one day I got probably surpassed where I was the original run through. But I'm enjoying it overall. You know, I feel like there's a lot of busy work. That's a downside to it. I feel like there is some busy work that you have to do on each little planet. I love the concept. I love the way the R-Wing feels when I fly as Fox. Just for the record, I only play as Fox. I don't play as anyone else, and I don't want to. I remember actually seeing the first time they showed this before the whole Star Fox stuff dropped a year later. I was just like, I'm not getting that game, you know. That is the only appeal, and that's why the Switch version probably has sold the best. Is because of Star Fox.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is so kind of silly because, like I said, I'm really having a fun time with it, you know, and it would do the same if it wasn't Star Fox in there. But Star Fox is what sold me on it. And I think I really hope Ubisoft can get the license to work on make a full-fledged Star Fox game, because I think they would do a fantastic job. I really love the way it controls. I love roaming around the planets. I love entering the atmosphere and leaving it. And I'm really just getting the hang of how to control a spaceship. And that was something I never was really good at in the Star Fox games in the past. I really had trouble controlling it and doing dogfights in the sky. I never really could cling on to it, but now I'm starting to get the hang of it, and that makes me excited. So I think the graphics are great. The story's good. There's a lot more still to do, but I've been really enjoying this game. So I'm glad I've gone back, and it's perfect timing because that DLC I think just dropped or was about to drop. So I'll just be able to roll right into it, So really, that's been the only gaming I've done is Starlink. I did not get the new Yoshi game. I will get the new. I will get it for Easter. It's been on my. I plan to get it on Easter, which is at the end of April. So I have about another month to play it before I'll get my hands on it. But I'm going to strictly play it with my wife too, because we did that with Woolly World, and my wife's not a gamer, so take what I can. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, guys, I don't want to waste any more time. We need to get into the topic at hand, guys. We are talking about, in honor of the new Yoshi game that just came out, we are diving back into a lovely Nintendo 64 game, one that I can remember fondly of being a first grader playing this game. That may make you feel really old, Jeff. But, yeah, I got photos to prove it. It's guys. We're gonna open up this storybook and we're gonna dive into Yoshi's story. Okay. So with all the craziness here, I didn't actually have it pulled up. I normally have this pulled up, and we would edit this out probably, Jeff. Normally I'd be like, hey Jeff, you want to pull up the day that the game was opened up and you can talk
March
about that?
10th, 98.
March 10th, 1998. Yeah. So right around that time, I wonder, do they normally release their Yoshi games in March?
They do. I was actually just looking at that with just a couple of exceptions. You've got Yoshi's Story, and then Topsy Turvy is kind of a side shoot, but Touch and Go is a March game. And then New Island was a March game. Yeah, it's usually a spring game.
Wow. Interesting. I mean, it makes sense. Yoshi seems like an Easter-like character to me, with just all the eggs that he always lays, and they're all so colorful, and it's just a simple, cutesy time. It totally reminds me of Easter and the Easter Bunny and all that. You know what I mean? It's just a happy, bright franchise.
And you know what? You're probably diving into something real meaty over the holiday season. Mm-hmm. And this is a good refresher for whatever you were playing. You got something for Christmas and you've been playing it January, February. It's a good time of year to dive into something a lot more lighthearted and simple.
Absolutely. You are so true. So right on that, because I can tell you right now, Yoshi is definitely something I'm just going to casually play with the wife. It's not something I want to, like Star Fox. I'm like grinding out as much as I can and trying to beat it as quick as I can, kind of like I would back in middle school or high school. But because that gaming time is valuable. But with Yoshi, it's just a simple. That's what even the reviews. We'll dive into that of the new game. But it's just the reviews. I feel it's so silly when people think of like something that's rated in the 7s is a bad game, because it's not. It's a great rating. From what I've heard, the game is solid. It's Yoshi though. I mean, it's not Cuphead. Okay, it's not gonna be difficult. Nintendo does. There's something special that Nintendo can do with Yoshi games that are, they are so good at making them, as in like. They're so good to appeal to children, but yet they're engaging enough that adults want to play through it. You know what I mean? It's not like a little baby game where it's so easy.
My daughter, who is just recently turned 6, my daughter and I you know, obviously I play games a ton in the household. She's grown up around them. Her first toys were my amiibo. If people saw the amount of amiibos that my daughter breaks arms off of and things like that, especially the rare ones that I have that she destroys, it was a big life lesson of like learning when to just like let the kid enjoy stuff. When like a week after getting Mega Man, she broke his Buster cannon off, and I was just like, oh, I was like, nope, not gonna rage at the 2-year-old.
It wasn't the gold one, was it?
No, it was not the gold one. Okay. It wasn't the gold one. But there is a shelf of amiibo that she can't touch, and that's where my Breath of the Wild champions are. Cloud, the Ice Climbers is up there. But yeah, anyways, the first game that she and I actually like sat and watched and like start to finish was only played with both of us. She was about maybe 2.5, almost 3. It was Woolly World. And we got snowed in one day and just sat and played it all day. And so I would give her the task of look for the flowers. You've got 5 flowers. Look for the red coins and look for the, you know, balls of yarn in that game. And now we've played, I don't know, a dozen games together now that she's much older. And I'm only playing this game with her. But then at night when she goes to bed, I can go back into the older levels, and that's when I 100% everything, because it's going to get frustrating if I'm always saying, no, stop here so we can get this thing. You know, she's got an attention span of a 6-year-old. So, you know, we keep moving, and it's just such a great thing to keep her involved in gaming and give me still something enjoyable to do. It doesn't need to be Dark Souls. You know, I'm fine with finding things in the really well-crafted levels. No pun intended.
It's really I've been watching just some people post videos of them playing with their kid, and Ryan doesn't have any kids, so he doesn't have to worry about like kids ripping amiibos off his shelves. But my daughter, she'll see them and she'll be like, I want that one, I want that one. So I'll like, okay, here, you can play with this one. You know, I try to have her to be careful, but I will say my precious my banjo, like I don't have any banjo figurines. This is my first one I got for Christmas from Trafen too. It's not an amiibo, obviously, but I will say this: she did. She was holding him and she dropped him, and it broke apart. Like he came apart.
Oh no!
And so I luckily like I was able to just put a strong Gorilla Glue underneath his feet, so he is Gorilla glued down to this little platform. They're definitely not as sturdy as amiibos are, but you know, I feel your pain is what I'm saying, I guess. But I've been seeing, back to my comment, I've been seeing people post some slight video footage of them playing with their 4-year-old or their 5-year-old of Yoshi. It's so funny to like watch like the kids like they're always trying to like, eat their parent with Yoshi, and like you can just tell which one's the kid.
She gets so mad at me because we do it on accident all the time. She keeps jumping on my back and then getting mad at me about it. I'm like, you did it. You got to jump back off.
That's your own fault. That's the thing with my wife, though. Like, I'll be intentionally like, if she's just like sucking at like an easy part, I'll pick her up and like eat her up, you know, and I'll carry her through, and then I'll like spit her out in like some hazardous area. And she's like, what are you doing? You know, oh, that's why I'm not allowed to play new Super Mario Bros. With her.
Oh no, that game's frustrating with any amount of people.
Absolutely. We're here. Let's talk about Yoshi's story, guys. So Yoshi's story, came out for the Nintendo 64. I guess, Jeff, since you are our first time to the show here, you're a guest, I would love to hear, take us back to your original memories with this game. Like, do you remember when you first saw this game, when you first got it? Did you get it from a friend, see it at a friend's, get it from the store? Like, take us back to that time and what your first experiences were like with Yoshi's story.
My memory of this game is very vivid. This might sound kind of like a sad story, but it's not.
Okay.
So my family moved to Ohio in 97, and part of the gig was that for like a year, my dad was traveling all the time, like gone all week at a time and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, that put strain on the family and all that. Sure. And he was home on a Sunday night or something like that. And it was like, I was in 8th grade. by the way, when that game came out. And he and I had one of like our first like yelling matches, like first time that he and I ever blew up about each other. Who knows what it was? It wasn't important, you know?
Yeah.
And it didn't really get resolved. And the next day, and, you know, speaking in hindsight now, my dad was talking to my mom and was like, "Hey, I feel terrible. I wasn't being the adult." You know, like he was just like, I shouldn't have let that escalate, whatever it was about. And he was like, is there like a new game or something that he wants or something that that he's been saving up for? And so I totally got Yoshi's Story as like an apology present from my dad while he was out of town.
Nice.
Talk about a spoiled only child. But I remember getting that home, and I can't remember which came out first, Yoshi's Story or Paper Mario, but you know, they definitely had that same.
I'm pretty sure it's Yoshi's Story.
Yeah, because that was a pretty early N64 game.
Paper Mario was like one of the very last games to come out.
That's true. Yeah. So it was really a unique style game, and especially when I went back and revisited it to get ready to talk about it tonight, it's an open world like game. It's very unique in that way. And I guess that's what they did with like Mario 64 as well. You know, it was all about exploration, but the whole aspect of going through the levels kind of however you want. And a lot of times you can pick from a couple of different levels, but the goal is to get all the food to make the Yoshis happy. You know, it's very interesting the way you don't necessarily have like a goalpost that you're getting to at the end of the level. Other than that, I remember playing the game in my basement and my mom walking downstairs while they were singing their song at the end of each level and just being like, "What are you playing?" Like, playing the game you just got me. She's like, "Why are they singing?"
For the record, you are one lucky guy, because if I know exactly if that was me and my dad would have taken my 64 and like hit it for like 2 weeks.
Oh, I mean, there was plenty of that kind of stuff too, but this was a scenario where like I was being an 8th grader and he was being an 8th grader in response instead of being the adult. So I think that's why, like, I guess I quote unquote won that one.
He didn't respond maturely.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, neat. So obviously your parents didn't like sign you up for therapy and think
no,
you had issues
things worked out just fine. Yeah.
Say I'm going to my happy place. Dad yelled at me. These guys, they make me happy, you know. So I'm recovering, Mom. Ryan, do you have what's your original memories with this game?
You know, this was a choice for me to choose. I had to pick either Kirby or Yoshi at the time, and I went with the Kirby instead of the Yoshi. So I didn't actually play this game. I was a bit traumatized by the first Yoshi game that I played, not counting Super Mario World, of course. But I didn't do so well with Baby Mario, and so I thought this was going to be much of the same thing, and so I skipped the whole Yoshi's Story thing and went with Kirby instead, because I heard both were short games, and that really turned me off to both of them. But I needed something just to play that was, you know, relatively affordable, that someone would, you know, a parent or grandparent would buy for me. So I ended up going with Kirby. So I didn't actually experience this game. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it, other than from like seeing things in Smash Brothers, the trophies and things like that, and then of course Smash Brothers stage. But no, I don't have a lot to go on for this one. I've read up a little bit on it, but I haven't really watched any playthroughs or anything. But it's on my list to go back and play someday.
Okay. Not a problem. Well, I mean, that's why we have Jeff here. You know, he's going to help pick up your slack here, Ryan, tonight. Don't feel bad. I've been there. But for myself, so the 90s, it's an interesting time because this was the time, obviously, there was no internet. And guys, like I said, this was fun. I was held back in first grade. So this was actually my second year of first grade when I played this game. When I say first grade, I remember because we could get this little zebra, and everyone in the class, he was like a little beanie baby, and you take him home and you take him, like, you get selected who gets to like hang out with the zebra that night or over the weekend, and you take photos of you doing stuff with the zebra, and you share it with the class when you come back to school the next week. And I have a photo of me playing Yoshi's Story with my zebra. I was like smiling, and I got the Yoshi's, the cheesy little first grade kid, we're playing Yoshi's Story here, now. This was a time, though, being so young, like I said, the internet wasn't really a thing. I didn't have Nintendo Power in the 90s. Like, I didn't know that games were coming out. Like, I just knew about the games when I saw them at the store or I saw them at my buddy's house. And my buddy Brad Hunzinger, name drop, he had this game. Now, he is not the first one to introduce it to me. My buddy Traven Jonas introduced it to me, and we played it together. But a little bit, I think. But from what I recall, though, I played this a lot with Brad. Traven and his parents, like, they didn't really let you borrow games. Like, they were really, really strict about it. His dad, I love him to death. Great people, but his dad was one of those people that, like, he would have to approve of our Pokemon card trade before he would allow his son to trade a Pokemon card. His dad was very businesslike, and they're rich, so I get it. But Brad, he wasn't like that. Like they weren't like that. So I could borrow a game from Brad, and literally I could borrow it for months until I beat it and then bring it back. And we would do that a lot. And that game that I took that picture of was Brad's game. I never owned it at that time. But I remember playing it a lot more with Brad than I did with Traven. But yeah, so those are really my original memories with it. The game was neat. I had only vaguely seen some Yoshi's Island stuff with Traven on his Super Nintendo. So this was really cool to see Yoshi in this more of a three-dimensional imagery, because actually, this game is kind of a little. This one in Kirby is a little. I don't know. It was a little bit of a stretch for Nintendo at this time, because at that time, everyone only wanted 3D worlds and games. Whereas the character models, they're 3D, but the whole world is not 3D. It's not like Mario 64 where you can run around in circles and go over the hill. And this one, it's still on like a flat screen. It's kind of like a Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is today. Like, it's not a 3D open world, but it is a 3D platformer. Wait, 2.5D, would that be appropriate? What you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kirby game, what was that? The Crystal Shards? That was the one for 64. That one's definitely the 2.5D, because you've got like the perspective that changes. This one was, Yoshi's Story was really capitalizing on the popularity of pre-rendered things at the time. Final Fantasy VII, as you were talking about, Ryan, really made pre-rendered backgrounds famous. And Yoshi's Story did very much the same thing, but it would make like some of them dance a little bit. It could put some animation to those pre-renderings and actually do some of them in real time. But it definitely it was a 2D platformer at its heart. But just as everything else in the N64 land, Nintendo was figuring out, what do we make this controller do? What's unique about this game? Every game that came out on the N64 had to do something a little bit different. And if you look back, the way that Nintendo's franchises evolved at the N64, in almost every instance, became the way that platform or that franchise plays from here on out. Yeah. That's really the way it is. And there's a lot of similarities between Crafted World and Yoshi's Story, just like there are with Kirby, for example.
Oh, yeah. I entirely agree with that. This one, they definitely really relied on that storybook, obviously it's just Yoshi's Story, but they had the pop-up, which was really cool and unique. It was, I think, maybe Nintendo, one of their first times really dabbling in like crafty, like, graphics, you know what I mean? Because even if you like look at some of the screenplay, like, we never got like a Yoshi's, Woolly World or a Kirby's Epic Yarn type of game, but there are levels where the whole background looks like, I'm looking at one right, it looks like someone stitched a cloud onto someone's overalls, or their jeans, So they really had that aesthetic going for them there. They were really definitely trying to pull that off. So let's go ahead and dive into the story of this game real quick. It's super deep. The Yoshis live in harmony at Yoshi's Island, and their ultimate source of happiness is provided by the super happy tree, right? Baby Bowser becomes jealous of their happiness and steals the super happy tree, crushing their happiness, and then performs a spell to turn the entire island into a pop-up picture book. Wow. Crazy, right? 6 baby Yoshis plus 2 unlockable ones hatch into the island and learn of what Baby Bowser has done, and thus set out to retrieve the tree. They venture through 6 pages on the island until eventually fighting him at the end. Yeah. Now, this game was pretty easy. I mean, from what I remember, I know in order to get through it, you just had to fill the whole screen out in fruits, different types of fruits. You just had to find them and eat them up. I don't really feel like you were attacked very often too. I think it morphs that, this was the trend where Yoshi started to become easy. You know what I'm saying? Because Yoshi's Island wasn't easy. Yoshi's Island got to be very difficult. But this, I think that's one reason why this upset people, because it was not as simplistic, or it was simplistic. They really felt like it was a baby game. You know what I mean? Like this, I mean, you got the music, you got the art style they're going for. They really changed Yoshi up.
Kind of game that if you're in 8th grade and you've got friends coming over, especially in the rare chance that a girl comes over to your house in 8th grade, this is not the game that you put on when, when you're trying to look cool, you know?
I mean, the girls might like it. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, maybe, but we were all about Smash Brothers.
For sure. Sure.
Nothing better. I was just looking up the Metacritic. So Metacritic gave it a 65.
Wow.
And I wonder how much of that, there's only 8 reviews too.
Dang. It wasn't the business to be in back then, huh?
Yeah. And you know, what was interesting is like the game was kind of tough in some areas, but almost anything you did would replenish your health. They did the same kind of health system with the little wheel that would pop up, just like in Mario 64. You'd get hit and it'd fall away, but you know, you had to collect, I think, 20 fruits, maybe even more than that, maybe 30 per level, and they would kind of fill in around the screen, like you were saying. And anytime you grabbed one, it would replenish like a quarter of your health. And so it was like, as long as you were just moving your way through the level, anything you ran into, you could easily recover from.
Yes, you are correct. This is hilarious. Per Schneider from IGN did the review for this one.
Oh.
And he described it well. He said he gave it a 7 out of 10. And he said the story will most definitely sell many copies based on the reputation of its predecessor. But there will be a lot of unhappy gamers once they discover that Nintendo's mantra seems to have changed to quality over quantity of levels. Trust us, you'll love it when you rent the game, but don't buy it. You'll finish it in a weekend, but don't quit playing until you have the 4th level on each page. So, as a kid, I want to tap into that. This game does not require you to play through every level. Like, there's 24 levels, I believe. 6 pages and 4. 6 times 4 is 24. And I remember always, even as a kid, being a little confused that like, oh, I did this, but I didn't. Like, it just moved on. You know what I mean? Like, you beat a level and then you can just go to the next world. Like, it seemed like I didn't really earn my way through the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And as you play it, you pick in every page of the story, every one of the 6 worlds, you play one of the 4 levels. And then when you finish that level, they all sing their song. I don't know if you're going to put it in editing, but you definitely have to put in somewhere the end song. I assume that's what they're saying. The end, the end of, something like that. But yeah, and you could unlock things by going back and doing the extra levels, but it was really almost like a choose your own adventure kind of thing in that way, because you were picking which, because you could play through the whole game without doing a haunted house level, you know, or you could do a couple of them. Interesting the way they did that. I haven't seen, have any other Nintendo games really done that other than, like your Mario 64, where, you can kind of pick how you go, but have they done it in that capacity before?
Not this simplistic to where you could just nothing. I think most games where you can kind of choose your adventure, you have to at least meet a certain criteria. Whereas this, you literally just beat a level and you move on.
Right.
I mean, you could essentially only play 6 levels, I think, and then you could be done with the game. Actually, beat the final boss.
Yeah,
which is kind of lazy, in my opinion, just to do that.
Yeah, you can beat the game in like an hour. It's pretty easy. I mean,
super easy mode in that aspect. If you're not looking to collect everything, you're not looking to explore the levels, you just want to beat the game, you're not going to get too rewarded from what I'm hearing.
Right.
Which is hilarious because there's 3 game modes: story mode, trial mode, and practice mode, because we really need practice mode to beat this game.
If it's just too tough for you.
Yeah. Hey,
okay, I'm sorry.
Like my wife, might
some people might actually benefit from that and be good training for your first video game, like to learn that style, but experienced gamers kind of laugh at that, but there are people that legit use that, so I shouldn't laugh.
For how easy this game is, it is very laughable. Yeah, so overall, I do some key things I do remember that stick out to me about the game. I always remembered how kind of creepy it was. Like if you did die, you would get like captured by the little shy guys, and they carry you off. They show you carrying you off to the Baby Bowser's castle, and they like drop you in this prison, and it's pitch black.
It's pretty freaky.
It's a wooden floor, right? And they're all the Yoshis. If you go through all the colors, they're just like hanging out in jail, and they're just like depressed.
Yeah, because they don't have fruit from the super happy tree,
right? So then you get to go select the next Yoshi, and there's a way you can like get them out. I don't remember how that works. I don't either, but I know you get to like select one of them in jail, and they're like, "Yay!" and they like jump out. It's kind of funny, but I do remember that. And then the thing that sticks out to me most, and ironically, I remember this more so with Traven, because my original memories with the game when I first was introduced, even though I played the game more with Brad, I remember this more with Traven because it was the first time we got here, and it was around Traven and I when we went to preschool together. Okay, maybe this wasn't around a preschool time, but we've been gaming since preschool, and I just remember being over to his house around Christmas time, and it was we were at Baby Bowser's castle, and it just was like felt so appropriate because Baby Bowser's castle. I mean, it's I don't even know the name of it, but it's a Christmas song. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yep.
What's the Christmas song it replicates?
Oh, I don't remember.
Is it the Nutcracker?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Weird.
That's the song. It's their own variation of it, but that's the music that plays through all about Baby Bowser's castle, which I thought was always cool, and that's probably why it's stuck in my head, because I love Christmas time. It's my favorite time of the year, and playing this game with my best friend at that time, it was something that just sticks with you.
Yeah,
and I really when I think of this, I always think of Christmas time. Honestly, I don't think of the summer much. I think of Christmas time because of this level. But yeah, I always thought that was unique and that was cool. And Baby Bowser, the final fight, he's not hard.
There's multiple ways to cause damage, and there's a happy fruit tree in the room, so you can I think you can just get unlimited as long as you walk over to the middle of the screen and eat the fruit. You can replenish your health.
Yes. We can quickly just talk about the fight here. I mean, there's bosses in each world, but we'll mainly just focus on Baby Bowser here because he's probably the most unique, I think. He's the final boss, and Baby Bowser first rides around on his pet while he throws bombs at you. And then you got to get said bombs and send them back at him. So you just eat him up as Yoshi and shoot him back. Afterwards, then the rest of the fight's really on foot for him. The fight never really gets extreme.
that next point though, when he is on foot, It's almost the same battle as the end of Mario Brothers 3. Bowser Jr. like hops around the screen, goes up in the air, does a little flip, and then dives straight down, just like Bowser did in Mario Brothers 3. It's kind of a callback to that.
Yes, that's very cool because I didn't really connect those lines because I never beat Mario Brothers 3 at that point. I have now.
That's a tough one. Yeah, that's a tough
I had never beaten it. But yeah, you know, so again, it's a great way to introduce children into gaming. That's why I think Yoshi kind of went down that path. But at the end of the day, and it's a sweet little charmer, but again, at the end of the day, it's not something I really have a deep desire to go back and play. You know, you definitely can get if you have an itch for it, you can scratch that itch in like an hour, you know.
So let me ask a what if. What do you think you could do to the game, or Nintendo could do to the game, to make it more of a challenge, to make a hard mode or something, like they threw it in an NES remix and did something weird to it or something to make it a little bit more challenging? What would you see they would do with maybe not necessarily changing like core elements of the game, but like moving like the health replenishment and stuff? Like, would it make it more challenging and worth it for a hardcore gamer, or is it just something that's completely and totally built for kids and there's no way to really change that up?
One of the things that I would say, if you just made it to where the fruit wouldn't replenish your health, that would help, but there's two things to that. One is when you do lose all of your Yoshis, if you end up losing, what is it, all 7, I think, the game's over. So you actually, there is a penalty to losing all of your lives. That's hard to do, but there is a big one.
Yeah.
But you would have to, so because of that, I think to make it kind of balanced, if you made it to where you couldn't replenish your health, you'd probably also have to put in some kind of checkpoint system so that you could restart the level. Because that's the thing, the levels themselves are big. I mean, they are.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I mean, you only play 6 in a playthrough, but they are, 3 to 5 times the length of, like a 2D Mario level. They're big.
Mm-hmm.
They're very up and down and
lots to explore then.
Yes. Yeah. They're open world. I mean, when you're looking at it, it's probably like they are big, tall, like you said, Jacob, big vertically scrolling areas, lots of like trees and clouds and things like that you climb. But you also, not only is it like big scrolling rooms, but there's also multiple ones. And so you could get to a point where you missed a couple of fruits in the level. And then that's one of the downsides, is that you end up having to backtrack through the level. All the enemies are still there, still dangerous, but now there's no fruit if you get hit while you're looking for that last one. So I don't know, maybe remove, you know what? I think that would be a good answer to the question. If you need 30 pieces of fruit to complete a level, they probably have 40 or 50 in each level.
Yeah.
They should put 30 pieces of fruit in the level. That would make the game harder. You'd have to be much more deliberate, and you'd have to really, kind of get it on your first try.
It could be, I can see that being harder, but I also can see that being just so tedious, especially for how big and grand it was. They would need a better way to be able to map and backtrack through it if they did that route. I think you just ditch the whole collect 30 pieces of fruit and move on, period, type of thing. Like, maybe like give me more incentive to collect, like they do now in the game. Like, you can collect red coins in the new one, which is, can be a challenge. And they have the golden Yoshi coins, kind of a callback to Mario World. And they have, they collect all the little heart pieces, little heart dudes, and the flower heads. They have goals like that. And maybe they were in this one. I can't quite remember, but I don't feel like they gave me incentive that like I need to collect these items, and like, it probably would have been better if like maybe you had a key item you had to collect from each level, and that maybe you collect them, and then by the time you get to World 4, it allows you to unlock, I don't know, the door to the boss, and then you fight that boss. Because all you had to do was, like you said, I just get 30 pieces of fruit and then I move on. Woohoo! You know what I mean? Like, that's not really challenging. It's not exciting. It's not fun.
That's a really good point. When I was thinking about how to make the game harder, I wasn't thinking of it in scope of a Yoshi game. And you're right. the thing about Yoshi games are the collectibles. I mean, the other answer is, what if they did make you play all the levels? You know, if they did make you play all the levels, that game gets just as long as Mario World, or, you know, I mean, if you had to have to play through all 24 of those levels, it would be a much longer game. And I bet that they made that change maybe because they realized how long it would be. Are either of you familiar what happens when you beat the game, how it kind of closes out the game, Jacob?
I totally forget, and I should have rewatched it. So refresh me.
So one of the really neat things that it does, and especially getting your headspace in 1998 video games, is since you're picking a level in each of the storybook chapters, at the end, it retells, after you beat Baby Bowser, it retells like a storybook. You see the pop-up book where you would pick your levels. It goes through the 6 chapters and is basically like, first they went into the big blah, 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 level 1. And then they went to the haunted house and even if you lose a Yoshi, it calls it out. And like, but then they lost yellow Yoshi. So the whole Yoshi's story, like, it really does kind of, you know, it's very simple, but it becomes your version of the game.
You know, it would have been even cooler, you know, maybe like, I don't know, maybe that they still did that, but you had to, excuse me, you had to play with each colored Yoshi to form a bigger adventure. You're like, that's the story of the yellow Yoshi. And then you have to do a green one where you have to do different tasks. And that's the story of that. And then at the end, they all combine and they make one big
Megazord, like Megazord Yoshi,
Megazord Yoshi. And then that is like the final book where all the Yoshis are together now at the end of this chapter, kind of like playing a game with different vantage points, you know?
Yeah.
And then all the Yoshis are together now, and now they have to take on Baby Bowser.
That would be really cool.
I'm a genius. We're geniuses. All right, we're gonna pitch this to Nintendo and see where it goes.
So what I'm getting is it's a game that's geared towards kids, or
definitely
beginner gamers, but also feeds that completionist person. Maybe you're a new gamer who finds out they actually like doing completionist stuff and completing games and collecting all the things. Like, it's easy enough for you to beat it, but then you can collect everything and take the time to do it. If you're like, I have to have everything, you know, that kind of speaks to that person. It's very niche, but it doesn't hit that hardcore gamer quite in the feels like it would some
I mean, newbie. I don't really think I disagree, because it doesn't really, you're just collecting fruit. It's not like you're collecting like the 8 special pieces of fruit within the mix. Like, you just had to find, I remember playing, I just got to get some fruit, you know, not even exploring the world, just finding as much fruit as I can, as quick as I can, just to move on. So there's not really incentive to collect anything to keep me wanting to play in that world. Like,
they definitely did that in Yoshi's Island, and then they brought that back in all of the future games. But in fact, I would think Yoshi's story, I remember one piece of fruit was lucky in each level, so it would give you more perks or something. And then I do think there was like a heart in every level you could find. It was like one hidden item, I think. But other than Yoshi's story, it's the only one of, I think, the core Yoshi games where there weren't the 5 flowers, the 20 red coins, beating the level with all 20 hearts, like all those criteria that they did have through the rest. So it's kind of an odd man out in that way, that there really isn't all that much. You could play through it with multiple color Yoshis and see all the different levels, and that would in turn give you a game that's 4 times as long as the core experience, but that's about it.
I kind of wonder what the idea was behind this game, like what they were going for. Maybe they were going for a younger audience with this. Like,
I think what
had them put this out? Like, what was the development team? Was it a new development team that was just kind of, you know, dipping their toes in that? Or
no, it was EAD at the time. I mean, it was creme de la creme. Yeah. I mean, they finished Star Fox 64, and then they made Yoshi's Story. I almost wonder if it was a tech demo for Paper Mario.
I bet something could have been drawn some inspiration to it. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, there is some similarities there for sure. But yeah, you know, well, you know, I want to round this out to Yoshi today. So Jeff, a big reason why we wanted to have you on is because you've been diving into the new Yoshi, So what do you think of Crafted World? And obviously it's different from what this is, but kind of compare the two and tell us a little bit about the game. And does it live up to the reviews? Is it truly a 7? Is it better than that? Is it worse than that? Why don't you go ahead and share your thoughts on that?
I think it's awesome. It is some of the best fun I've had on my Switch so far.
Wow.
Especially playing with my daughter. There is a ton to do. It is so unique. I cannot remember the last time that I played a 2D platformer where there are so many times where you walk further away from the camera and closer to. A lot of games do that as a gimmick. This is really, you have to figure out which plane to go to in the perspective and to find hidden items. And now you can throw the eggs to items in the foreground and backgrounds. So you see little floating clouds in the sky. You ready the egg, and if you can highlight it, you hit it and the cloud flies away, and it does some kind of cute, like, oh, it was hanging by a piece of fishing line or something. I mean, it says there's like rainbows coming out of my butt. It's so cute. I mean, and it's like, you know what? I just despise the discussion of difficulty is a thing that could hurt the game. It is easy. And I don't know if you saw, there was a video on Reddit where somebody said, look, you can beat Crafted World with 2 rocks. And they put like a rock on the jump button and a rock on the forward momentum. And yeah, you really could do that in most levels. Like most levels you probably could. But I mean, come on. It is so much fun. It looks phenomenal. There's a ton of things to collect. Every single level is truly unique and does the thing that Nintendo does so well, where they say, here's a new mechanic. Here's some kind of simple machine, a pulley. You're going to learn how to use a pulley to weigh something down to figure out the puzzle. And you're going to do it once and it's going to be really easy. And then you're going to do it again and it's going to be a little hard. Another time where there's an enemy coming at you. And by the end of the level, you have to do this really gratifying version of that puzzle that they introduced. And then you beat the level and then you never see it again, except for maybe like one callback later on. Yeah. And they do that very, very, very well. And so, I mean, if you got someone to play with it, Jacob, you and your wife are going to have so much fun with it. It is a riot.
I'm excited.
And I'm playing on mellow mode because I'm playing it with my daughter. But anytime, go into the pause menu, turn off mellow mode. You can turn off mellow mode for one character. So I can play the game with higher stakes than my daughter does.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just love it. I'm having a blast with it. I really am.
Awesome.
That's what makes Nintendo, I mean, such a great company, as in like, we don't need every game to be a Cuphead or Dark Souls experience. Right. We doesn't need to be a Zelda or Donkey Kong Country experience. Like,
no.
Yoshi, the magic in Yoshi is the cleverness of the art style, just the happiness it can give you. Like, Yoshi is just a happy franchise.
Yeah,
it's cute and happy, and it's exactly what you just said. It's about you making memories with your daughter, making nostalgia. What this show is about, was Yoshi's Story a very good game? At the end of the day, I don't think it was very good.
It was tough. Yeah,
but I have memories with it because I played it with my best friends, and they stick with me today. So I don't when I look back at it, I don't look at it and say, man, Yoshi's Story, it sucked, I just think about the fun memories I did have with it. You know what I mean? So in my mind, there's some charm there. And that's what this game is. This game is all about charm. And Wally World was great. I think it actually was probably a little bit more challenging than your standard Yoshi game. But I played it with my wife and I had a blast. And although my daughter's not quite old enough yet, one day she will be, and this game will be a great game to pull out and be like, let's play through this game, honey, and let's do it together.
And you'll have a blast doing it. And she'll solve puzzles and complete things. Like, my daughter, every time we get to the end of one of the levels, there's a finish line, like a streamer banner thing that you run through, just like in a race. And every time we get to the end of the level, she has learned that if she's right behind me, she can eat me and spit me behind her, and then she can dart and cross the finish line. And she does it every single time, to the point now to where like I kind of make sure I'm positioned so that she can do it right at the end. I'm like, yeah, I'll let you have this.
Awesome.
You know, it's like some days she'll be old enough and I'll school her in Smash Brothers, and I'll be like, don't you forget that. But I mean,
just trick her once. Just jump right at the right time.
Yep.
Like, sucker.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if anybody played Woolly World and they remotely liked it, it's probably easier than Woolly World, which is kind of alarming to even think of. Probably is a little bit easier than Woolly World, but it does have a lot of really cool new ideas to it.
Yeah.
That I think makes it worthwhile.
Very neat. Well, if you could rate it out of 10, what would you give it?
An 8. I'd give it an 8. Yeah. I think the 7s are too low.
7s are too low. Yeah, I think the 8 is appropriate. From what I've just gathered, like I said it earlier in the show, is that like I think Nintendo does a fine job at balancing this out. It's great enough for kids to play, and it's fun enough and clever enough for adults to play, and that's, I think, the balance to find. Right, Yoshi's Story, it's not going to appeal to kids, or it's not going to appeal to adults. I'm sorry, it's going to appeal to little kids who don't really know how to game. But this game, Nintendo has found they've hit their sweet spot with how to make Yoshi games fun for of all ages to play. And it's not just a baby game, you know, it really can be fun, and the puzzles are fun. And like you said, it's a unique, clever thing. Like, oh, I see what I did there. That was cool, you know, and then you move on. And that, I think, takes great talent to be able to plan and craft something, like, no pun intended.
I know, it's so hard, right?
That was not intended.
Yep.
To find that balance, you know, and Nintendo, they did it again, and that's great. So I'm looking forward to getting it. Ryan, are you going to be getting Yoshi's Crafted World?
Probably not. I will enjoy it with friends, but I'll probably not.
You can just get.
Have you guys played the demo?
The chat right now.
I did play the demo, and it was charming.
I did.
Yeah. Did you do the flip side where you go backwards through the level, chase after the Poochies? Yeah, that stuff's great. Yeah, I mean, that is the first level of the game.
Cool.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it again. It's if it was like a Metroid Prime game, yeah, I would totally I would be trading in games I hate, and I'd go buy it right now. Just money is so tight, but it's something I'm like,
if we've learned anything this generation, it's that Nintendo finally discounts their games, their first-party games. I mean, we have seen Splatoon, Odyssey, Zelda, all of them go for $45. I mean, if you're on the fence about this, wait a couple of months. It'll be $40 before you know it.
Oh, yeah. It definitely will be.
You can also spend your coins on it.
True enough.
That's very true. Well, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and take a moment and just let everyone know where they can find you and what you do, and then Ryan will do our due diligence and close it out here. Okay.
Great. Thanks. Yeah. So I am one half of the Nindy Nation podcast. We are a weekly, however, we missed this week. We got to catch up on that one. Gaming podcast dedicated to all the independent games on the Switch. And so our goal is to play all of the 20 to 40 games that come out on the eShop every week. We try to dig through them. We figure out which ones are actually worth your time. If you go on the eShop every single week, there are over 70 games on sale. We comb through all those, figure out the games. We do combination of reading other reviews, playing games ourselves. Josh and I usually play 5 games or so a week. So our podcast is built where we talk about the new releases that we've actually played for the week. And then in the second half, we dive through all the games that are coming up, which is usually a little fun because we get to talk through, the Santa tracker that's currently on sale for 99 cents in April. It's like, what? Or all of the My Little Pony horsey riding simulator Barbie doll game, which is probably a real game on the eShop right now. Probably. And so then we talk through all the sales out there as well. So we do a series of Let's Plays as well called Let's Play Nindies. You can find all that stuff on our Nindy Nation YouTube channel. You can also find us on Twitter at Nindy Nation, and you can find me on Twitter at Nindy Jeff, and you can find Josh at _the Brant. And we look forward to having more guests from Nintendo Village on the podcast.
Heck yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. We're glad to have you on.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, let's get into our due diligence. I can't even say it either. Due diligence. You can find us, our home over at Nintendo Nostalgia. I'm sorry, Nintendo Village, thenintendovillage.com/Nintendo Nostalgia. You can listen to the podcast at Apple Podcasts and Google Play. You can find us on our Facebook, facebook.com/Nintendo NOS, on our Twitter at Nintendo_NOS. Shoot us an email at nintendonostalgiain@gmail.com. Of course, you can find us on YouTube and watch our episodes. Also, we have an Instagram. It's Nintendo NOSIN. And if ever you want to give us a call and share your nostalgia for games, you can give us a call at 317-969-5690. Guys, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Later.
Have a good one.
Yoshi.
All right.